I'm excited for this episode. This is a really, really good episode. Shay, what you got to add?
I love this because it's something that I am new to, but Mo has been in for a while. So today's episode is costume design. I love this.
This is a really good episode. So, dear to
Yes.
my heart. Very good one.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
We're starting with that extra question.
We are doing 2 extra questions in the beginning.
Yes, we are. So I can go ahead. Mo, tell us why costume design over styling?
So, I wouldn't say over styling for me. Because costume design introduced styling to me, but it is very, very, very different. It is not the same. But I love both of them. I would say almost equally. The only thing with costumes, I would say I could love a little more because it was my start in fashion. When I was in high school, I got into costume design. And the layers of costume design with my mentor, was a costume designer. She taught me how to sew. She taught me the ins and out, to go shopping for stuff with thrifting or going into a costume wardrobe shop, where you shop for costumes. But I wouldn't say it's over the other for me because they intertwine with each other with me, and that's how I started. So yeah, I started my first fashion, like real job, was in costume. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I like it. Love it.
I'm excited about this episode.
Yes.
Okay. Shay, what is the story behind you getting into costume design and why?
So I always said once I started entering the styling world that I wanted to try or somehow be a part of every type of styling you can think of. Costume design came up on the list, and understanding how that's so different from styling because you actually, it's storytelling through wardrobe, which is different from styling. And I knew that I needed to be a part of that somehow. So that's how I got into costume design. I just recently did my first project, which was very exciting, and it challenged me. And that's something that I'm big on too as I continue to pursue my career in fashion. I'm all about challenging myself because that's how I grow. And costume design definitely is something that challenges you. And so that's why I got into it.
I love that.
It's
Okay, this one is for both of us though. What are your 5 favorite costume designers? And this is a question to be go for both of us.
You want me to answer first?
Yes, you can answer first.
So this was kind of also hard to narrow down, and I probably will shock some of you because of how I picked. But of course, at the top is Ruth E. Carter. You're talking about Black Panther. You're talking about really starting with Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing, Love and Basketball. And so just the way she story tells for Black people, Black culture, is just amazing. Sinners. We can't not talk about Sinners. Paul Tazewell, I think that's how you say it. But he's really into Broadway, and I thought it was great to highlight a designer, especially a Black designer in Broadway. So Hamilton. Next is Edith Head, and I'm highlighting her because my mom always talks about her. This is very back in the day. She's also was nominated for 35 Oscar nominations, which is huge, especially during her time as a woman. And then the last one I want to talk about is Patricia Field. Patricia Field is a costume designer, but also she did a lot. They also sometimes like to say that she was like more of the stylist, but Devils Wear Prada, the first one, and Sex and the City in 1998 and in 2008. Sorry, I said the last one, but my last one actually is Diana Ross. Believe it or not, she was a costume designer of Mahogany, one of my favorite movies. You got to see just the opening scene of Mahogany. Diana, you did that.
I love Diana Ross. Okay, so my 5 is I put, of course, we had to put Molly Rogers as well because Sex and the City and Devil Wears Prada. Those are like her staples. And Sex and the City had a long run. Very much so. She put a lot of designers on today, and a lot of designers are high priced because of this woman. So I had to put her at the top. Ruth Eve Carter. She has done a lot of movies. I'm going to list them at the bottom because Shay said some and we're going to get through this episode. 2021, Corella Laville, but Corella. I think it was Corella, right? And it's Jenny I guess, I don't want to chop up that name. Beaver? Just in case, I don't know. I'm gonna put it at the bottom, but I love that movie. That movie was awesome. I was there for the fashion. 2013, The Great Gatsby, and this is Catherine Martin, and I love Great Gatsby since we read the book in high school. Also, too, it's set in the 1920s. 1997, Titanic, Deborah Lynn Scott, but I don't know if that's anyway. Deborah Scott, and then 1995, Clueless, and that's Mona May. So those was my 5, and I'm so excited because I love costume. Costume is awesome. Okay,
so Mo, what was your favorite costume you ever designed?
This one is an interesting one. Okay, so when I was in high school, so I'm gonna go from the start. I started in costume. So when I was in high school, I wanted to get into everything fashion, everything that had to do with art. So it was this program that I applied for was called Running Crew at Brava Theater for Women in Arts, I think it's called. And I applied for it, got in, and they accepted maybe like 15 students. I was one of the students. A lot of the students was into theater and all those different layers of thing. I wanted to be a fashion designer, so I ended up with costume design. And so we did a second one, and I forgot exactly what that one was called, but they had 2. So they had a Running Crew, which is you learn all through theater. Did a little bit of costume design, but not a lot. And then it was a second one for the acting side. And so I got into that program as well after high school. And so when I got into that program, they was asking me what I wanted to do. I was like, costume design, period. Costumes, I put me in costume design. So I was able... So I acted in that show. I directed in that show, and I also styled and did costume design in that show. So I did a tribute to Africa. So I did all parts of Africa. I did the sashes. So I did different types. So I had recycled African fabric. And so my mentor told me, well, okay, this is Ghana. This is... she was just telling me all the different, so I did the sashes for that, so we wore them. And so we did that skit was, we was talking about like, we was being activists and we were standing up for our rights, and we had like the African sashes. So it was that, and then I was an old lady, and I wrote this skit, and it was about, her being, a woman that won money or something, and it was like a stereotype. And I did that one, and it was like an old lady. So I actually made the dress that I wore, which was like an old lady dress. And I revamped it, but I also like sold it all up and stuff. That was my favorite one because I sold it for myself, and it was the first like real thing I made. So yeah, I did 2, but yeah. So that was fun. I had a really good time, and I was like, I think 18 when I did that.
Those are always great memories.
Yeah. So I go all the way back to theater. Mm-hmm. So, okay. What materials do you love to use for costumes? Are they any you don't like?
So I'm gonna set the premise on a lot of my answers is because I only done costume design once so far. But what I would say, I like to gravitate towards breathable fabrics and materials with stretch because they allow the character to kind of move freely without the costume working against them. So materials I love like jersey, spandex blends, cotton, fabrics that move with the body rather than restrict it. So the role does dictate the material, even though my goal is to make sure that the character is as comfortable as they can. So they're not fidgeting with certain things. Sometimes that doesn't happen dependent on if I need a material to tell a specific story. And so a period piece like calls for something completely different than contemporary film. And as someone who is like newer to the space, I'm still building that material vocab. So I can't really say there's a material that I don't like yet or I extremely love, but stay tuned as I continue to build.
I love that.
Now, Mo, how do you create a costume that fits a character's personality?
This was a hard question because it depends on the freedom of the director. And what they allow. Because when I worked with a director, he was like, this is what I want. And you have to do it this way. So I had to take a strip away, which is good too, on the other hand, because you put them in that character. So when they see themselves and, actors, this is a good tool because I did act before too. But when you when you are in costume, it's good to go in that mirror and practice because you in everything. And so sometimes it's best to take away from who they are because you put them into that character. It's all, like you said, it's all about the storytelling. So the director might fight you on it. They might not let it, but it also too, ideally, it might be better for the actor to be in that costume and put them in that time period, in that story, so they can deliver the message, deliver that story, deliver that character. So, yeah.
No, that's very true about the director will have a strong opinion, but the writer too, because it's their script and they have the vision. You're just trying to take their vision and put it out in the front. And that could be very hard because you could be reading two different things.
Yeah.
And so I let the director, writer know, I said, this is what I think, but at the end of the day, you have the last say so what do you want me to switch?
But that is a trip because one of my cousins, she is a writer. And I'll be asking her stuff about the costume, but sometimes she's like, I don't think about that. But I'm like, that's something to think about because it puts that character in themselves. Like they come into the character. I forgot if it was Batman, Joker. He like literally went into that character so deeply he kind of became it a little bit and went. What's his name?
Heath Ledger.
He like literally just went into it, and that's what it's about. You have to. I mean, his story was a little darker, but I would say that's something you want when you put them in the makeup all the way down. You want them to go into that character, and that's good film. That's good storytelling. That's you're delivering what the writer is saying. So, yeah, just wanted to make that example. Okay. So I found my questions. I was like, where is my questions? But I think it was my answers. Some of these I can just answer. How do you make sure costumes are comfortable for actors? Is this the question? Okay. And what do you
consider for
movement? I was reading something else. Consider for movement. So how do you make sure costumes are comfortable for actors? And what do you consider for movement? Sorry.
So this is just even basic styling 101. Fit matters. Regardless if they're going to put on a costume, the costume still has to fit their body. Because if it does not, it's not going to work. They're not going to be comfortable. And it shows in camera. But sometimes that could be a good thing. Like Michael B. Jordan wore a size smaller in his shoes so Smoke can walk funny.
Yeah.
Walk different. So that's where sometimes you want the actor to be uncomfortable because you want them to tell a certain story. But in general terms, it's to fit. So their measurements, their size, I take all of that into consideration. And then I think about the materials because there's different body types. Some people sweat more, some people get cold, some people get hot. You have to think about all of that of when you're putting that material on them. Some people have sensitive skin, some people are allergic to certain metals. You have to think about all of that to make your actor comfortable. So the more you could tailor it to them, the better that costume is going to fit and they're going to be comfortable.
I agree.
So Mo, have you ever changed a costume based on an actor's suggestion? Ooh, that's a good one.
No. I have to always, when I have worked, and I actually had, when I worked for, so this was my first theater job that was highly paid. I was in college, I was in art school. It was called Nickel and Dime. I was the head costume designer. I go back to the show was already costume, so I was the costume designer just for that show. So I did have to make stuff. I had to create stuff. It was more or less guiding the show. So, but I managed it, if that makes sense. Like I managed the whole show. So it was things that I had to make if it ripped or something like that, like where I had to make stuff. So I had to make a button-up shirt. Ooh, that was horrible. But I had to make a button-up shirt because the guy he didn't like the movement when I don't know if he bent down or something. So I had to make something for him. But nah, I will make them comfortable, but I would never change it. The director and the writer has that goal, and they have the last input. Like, and I enjoy it because why I enjoy that part is because it keeps them in character. Like you gotta stay in character. Is sometimes you have to be comfortable to get that character out because this is not you. You know what I'm saying? This is not you as your individually self. So I enjoy that part of it. But yes, no.
Yeah.
Heck no.
And that's and it will be an interesting ask from the actor because unless you see that it is totally left field from the character you're portraying, other than that, I take it as a personal opinion. And again, I'm not styling you. I'm creating a costume for the character you are playing. So that would be an interesting dynamic. But I thought that's a very great question. I'm glad you answered that. Yeah.
Nah, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
And that's important for them to know that. This ain't you.
Yeah.
I'm not styling you.
Yeah.
I'm not making this for you. Now, the guy, when he was talking about that was different because it made him do that part correctly because of disability. You know what I'm saying? So that was an altering, but it wasn't changing.
Yeah.
So this is a good one. I remember that button-up shirt. Whew, I was mad. I had to make it in a couple hours. And I was to my mentor, like, please help me. So that was a hard one. But I did it. Got it done. Okay, how do you find fabrics and materials for your designs? What challenges come with this?
I'll start with the challenges because I would say right now, again, I am new to this space. So I am still learning, like pulling my proper resources, building those relationships. So that's the challenge right now is really what I'm learning and putting that into practice and gaining those relationships and resources. So every resource that I can, vintage shops, pulling from friends. I am really just any resource that I could tap into that I know I have available now is what I've been doing. And as I continue to grow in this space, I will definitely hone in on the resources that work for me. So that's what I would say with that.
Okay. Love that.
Okay. What current trends in costume design excite you?
I wouldn't say trends for me, but I will list out what is like the trends and stuff and what is in trend in costume. But it's sustainability fabrics, tech, gender fluid, and then culture influence. For me, I will say those was just the questions that I got. But for me, I don't think it's because it depends on the era and what type of movie it is. I will go into Black Panther because it was more of a modern story. The costumes pulled from different cultures and all this stuff and backgrounds and stuff like that, but it was so modern how she did everything, and from her doing 3D printing on Angela Bassett like big old headpiece, or it wasn't like, it was a headpiece too, but it was the big thing. Like I feel like it depends on what you doing. Like it really depends, and you might not dig from trends. You might make, like, she made her stuff her own, and it was very unique, and that's why she got she got an Oscar.
Yeah,
She got an Oscar for it. So that, I mean, it's about being individually when it comes to certain things. So I think she had freedom for that, and that's why I brung that one up. But sometimes it just kind of depends on, like, of a Brokeback Mountain, where you know that it is kind of pretty simple on what they're wearing, which is cowboy gear and all that stuff. So it depends on the script. It depends on what they're writing, what they're putting into it. So I would say trends kind of can hit and miss, in my opinion, on that one.
I love that.
Okay. How important is research in your design process? How do you collect information? This is a really important question.
Yeah. So research is very, very important. If you don't know, but now you will know. Clothing, the actual picking the clothing, creating the clothing is the last part of the process. The research part is the big part. And the first thing that I like to do is I want to break down that script. That script is going to tell you everything, because it's telling you the setting, it's telling you what the person is doing, what you're expecting the person to look like. After you break down that script, then you need to go look at other movies, other films, and see references. Use those as reference points of, like, oh, this character is related to the script that I'm currently reading. How did the costume designer break that down? Also understanding the vocabulary around your fabrics, around clothing, because if you want a peplum top, you got to be able to know what a peplum is, for example, for that character. If you want a trench coat, you got to know what a trench coat means versus a fur coat. I know that seems simple, but you really have to do your research on all of that. Then that's how you create your mood boards, and the storyboards come together, and how you're able to communicate to the director and the writer, because they don't have the same lens you have. As Mo was talking before, of like, the writer was like, I didn't think of that. I had the same thing with me of, like, having conversations with the writer and director. It wasn't, they didn't have the same lens I had. But you have to do that research so you can also bring those language together. So it's very, very important, especially for period pieces, because someone's going to call you out quickly. They did not wear that in that period.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
Have, excuse me not to cut you off, but they have places that you can get those things, and it's exclusive, just like a showroom, fashion showroom. And that's something that in my career of costume, I was able to experience and be in them. And I posted it the other day on my story, but I remember being in one of those spaces, and they are massive. Like, when I say massive, they are huge, but it is so much pleasure in being in that space. But I have found that it was a long tailored blazer, but it was like a longer one, and it was from the 1910, and it had like a thing where it read. And when I say, I was like feeling on it, and it was cool because it had all these pockets. But it was a trip because it was an old piece from back in the day, but it was a costume piece, and they used it, and she was telling me when they used it and what shows and it was really interesting to hear all that. So yeah, I agree. You have to be very intentional with costume, and you have to really research and really know your stuff. And it is, you a nerd, like, you nerd out with it.
Yes, you do.
And it's such a good pleasure. Like, I've always enjoyed costume, and I'm happy that was my start in fashion. So yeah.
So, how do you mix creativity with practical needs in costume design?
I would say it could be a lot of things, but I'm gonna read off some stuff that I did research. So it's material selection, functionality, budgeting, and feedback. Um, it's all in that collaboration of the director, the writer, and you. And sometimes, like I remember when I had did the play, my first play that I was producing, did all that stuff, or direct and did all that. I had free reign, so I was able to just have fun and do these things, and especially on mine and how I wrote that play. I was able to have fun with it but I knew, but I also still had to go into costume design when I stepped away from the director, me being the director writing it. How do I want this look to look and why? And then the resources that I had, like the things that I had to pull together to make, I think her name was Sister Mary Clarence or something. It was like an old lady or whatever. So I had to bring her to life. But the whole script or what I wrote was funny. So I had to make her wig, a little twisted off her head and all these things. And it wasn't comfortable. Her pantyhose was rolled down, and she had these weird shoes on. And I went and found these shoes in like a costume wardrobe, but it made sense of what I was portraying on that paper. And so I think it's a collaboration of all those things where you pulling from to create. And I was able to create and have fun with it. But also, too, I still listened to what I wrote and I went into that. And that was because I played all three. I just used that example because I feel like it is a collaboration. And I wanted to stick with what I wrote, but direct and style. And, because you are styling some way, shape, or form that look because it has to come together. But then me drawing out the dress. And how do I want the dress and the fit of it, and it going like kind of slipped off her shoulders because she didn't really zip it and all this so all those things played the part. But it's a collaboration.
It is definitely.
So and budgeting is a good one in costume. You got a budget. You have to budget and you have to really be resourceful. So yes, so you should do that in everything with fashion as well. But yes, okay, So how do you stick to a budget while creating great costumes? Can you share an example of working with a tight budget?
Yes. So currently I costume design for a short film, and it was a small budget. It's a short film, small budget. And so it was a real tight budget for costume design, for wardrobe. And so when I tell you I tapped into my resources, I thought about, okay, what showrooms that I may have access to in LA through my other friends who are like celebrity stylists. I went to Revamp People and pulled from Revamp People. I called my friend who has his own watch line. So I really tapped into resources that I already knew. Thrift shopping is great.
Yeah.
Thrift shopping is great.
That's the best for costume.
Yeah. And so I even pulled from my closet. A lot of the bags, actually all of the bags came from my closet. So that is how I worked with a tight budget. Is I just say in general, use your resources. 9 out of 10 times, if you are a costume designer, you have done styling, you have some styling friends, you have people who have access to other people with wardrobe. So I know you have those resources. It's going to be rare that you're coming in as a costume designer and you don't have those resources. But yes, use those resources. It's very important. That's how you stick to a tight budget. Okay. But one day I'll be working with that big budget. Okay. Devil's World Prada budget. Okay.
And the team is very important.
It's very important.
Very important.
Yeah. So again, shout out to everyone who helped me.
You're welcome.
Why is color important in costume design?
Okay, so I'm going to go into color just a little bit. Color is important because it depends on where it's being shot. are where it's being seen. So if it's theater, certain things need to be seen in a certain way. Also, too, the background is very important for the color. Same with film. Some things don't film well. So you have to be intentional with prints and all these different things. Color is a big one. Also, usually the director, the writer, when they're sitting there watching, they usually say, "Oh, you gotta change that color because color is loud. It doesn't make sense. It's it's clashing." They're most of the time is gonna see it. Also, too, once you get into costume deeply, you will know like this not gonna work. Like black and white, I love black and white. I try to stay from it sometimes, but black and white can kind of, if you ever was watching TV as a kid and then it goes off air and it got the little shh, sometimes black and white can kind of look that way, and especially depends on what type of print it is. So sometimes I will stay unless it's a crisp print, like a busy white. I probably will stay away from when it comes to like filming. So color is very important, but also too just looks, and the actual full look is very important to how it's being seen on film or on in theater. The first person in that role. When I went to go see Lion King, it was so amazing to be front row. You saw so many details in every costume. And then I remember somebody like a giraffe or something walking near me, and so kind of scary because it's like you sitting right there and you look, but you could see everything, like how that costume designer had to think of every part of that because of the front row. So you thinking of that in the front row, you thinking film is a little different because it's filmed in from a camera, so it's like a little different. So all those things is different, but color is so important when it comes to film, and that's something that I enjoy. That's something I actually mastered with costume, film and costume, theater costume. But it's important, and it's pivotal for your design point of view. It's a collaboration when it comes to that color. And you want to stay away from certain stuff. Like even with Smoke, you notice his red wasn't super out there. It was more muted because of how it was viewed. They didn't want it loud, and you got this big old projection, big old screen looking at this. You're gonna look right to that red, so they muted it a little bit. So it was more like a wine or like a burgundy. And I noticed that when I seen it right away. I was like, oh, they muted that because da 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 da. So yeah, but film, all this stuff, yeah, it's fun. It's like a science, and it's so much fun, and I nerd out on this stuff. So yeah. Okay, so what tools or technology do you refer on for costume design? How has these changed your work?
I can
It's cool.
list. But Canva, because I use Canva for like my mood boards. I use Pinterest as well as like a starting point before I actually create the actual mood boards. Google too, because Google, and of course I know we got to get on the AI bandwagon. I'm not fully on there, but I am. So AI as well, because AI is able to pull a lot of resources at once faster for me. And so I'm able to do my research a lot easier without spending tons and tons of hours. So those are like my main tools. But yeah, I have to have a mood board. Pinterest I use because I want to see looks together, and then I can kind of take that apart, deconstruct it, and create my mood boards in Canva. And so that's the technology that I'm currently using. But community, we would love to hear from you too, and we would love some ideas as well. Okay, number 7. How do you keep designs modern while respecting history?
This one was good. A good question. But it goes right back to listening to the director. Sometimes you will get lucky and they will say, do what you want, but I need this. So then you can get creative. I just brung up Black Panther and Ruth Carter, like how she I'm sure, this is just my opinion, I'm sure she had she was able to create as she wanted to. I'm sure she had some guidelines, which is very, very, very important because you do want something to kind of bring it in. But I'm sure she was able to have fun and be creative and really make things modern. That was like one of the best examples where it was so in Corella, how hers, because it was completely different from the original movie. But she was able, well, actually, it was like a whole nother movie because she was just her by herself, right? Because it wasn't with the Dalmatians. Yeah. So, but the pieces was like amazing. They even made it fashion. They had people was drawing out her stuff. So that it was for that. So that was modern. You know what I'm saying? So, I would say it just depends on the director and how that film is. Is it written in modern? Is it a modern film? Sometimes it's period, like it's like a Titanic, you know what I'm saying? But the pieces that she did, I think her name was Molly, I think. But the pieces she did was amazing. Like the details, she went into more of the details. No, it was Catherine Martin, but she did the details that was amazing. And so she wanted you to draw you in some way. So she did it with the beads. She made sure they was polished and rich. And that's where she got you to draw your eye. And I mean, you know, that could be considered as like a modern touch. You know, what is going to captivate them to the pieces and what she's wearing? How is it making them look rich and, you know, strategic? So yeah, that's the answer. Okay, Shay. You closing it out.
Closing it out.
Okay. How does costume design help tell a story in a film or theater?
Ooh. So it tells the character's story through wardrobe. You know, whether it's that shirt, that jacket, that piece of jewelry, it says something about who that person is, where they at, what they're doing, why they're doing it. I want to give some real simple examples that are like very small details that people may not even think of. So let's go with the wedding ring. The wedding ring is one piece of jewelry that speaks volumes without ever have to saying one word. And you know, if you see somebody with a wedding ring on, it means they're married. But maybe you know that person is married and they're not wearing the wedding ring. What does that tell you? That tells you that there is something going on there. Either they're a cheater, either they are having issues. You know,
I'm working out.
It's it's depending on the setup. Like that band is important. You could talk about depression. Depression looks different for everybody. There are people who are dressed to the nines and are depressed. But if you really hone in on the detail of their look, there's going to be something that's off that they normally don't do with their wardrobe. And that's how you're going to be able to tell that they're depressed. So it tells a story and it's very important. And all those little pieces coming together says, I know that character. I get what that character is supposed to.
I agree.
So, yeah,
I agree. Well, that is it. We are done with costume design. I think we should do another one. Maybe season 4. Do another costume and kind of go deep dive into it and maybe show a lot of examples or something. But costume design is a really cool, when you're watching movies or you going to the theater and you want to see things, it's a costume designer behind it and it's really fun. I enjoy costume design.
I do
it's
too.
the start of my career. Yeah, I love it. And what do you have to add?
Yeah, I mean, same thing, Melissa. It's fun, and you really just get creative because not only is the actor becoming the character, your mindset as the designer have to become the character as well. So it's really fun.
Yeah.
But with that said, we want to hear from you. Who are some of your favorite costume designers, or what were some of your movies that you love the costume design in? Okay, and in the meantime, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, follow us on the social media platforms, and we'll see you soon.
Yes. Thank you, guys.